Okay, I press record. I know we're 2 minutes early here, but were you thinking anybody else was going to join, Matt?
I don't know. Thanks for posting that in the channel. Let everybody know. Alan may be joining maybe next week if he doesn't show up this week.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't have to go first. Anybody want to go first? Or you want me to just let you know what's going on with me?
I haven't done anything, so it doesn't matter what I have to say.
It always matters what you have to say, Jeff. You're the senior engineer on this thing. Okay. I mean, I've got a couple of photos here that I put up that I'll share if I can find the share button. There we go. Desktop, share. Are you seeing a photograph?
Yep. GPS.
So you may remember, so this is my electronics box that would actually be on the rover. The base station that would produce Wi-Fi and correction data. I really haven't drafted one yet, but I'm just drawing your attention to this GPS device. And previously, before Christmas, I was testing this and got the correction data in, but there were some pieces that, well, to put it mildly, were sort of jury-rigged into getting it to work, and that was my radio setup to get correction data in and out of that. So where I've been spending my time is 3D modeling and what was, pieces glued to a piece of plastic presentation board and sort of wires everywhere. I've tried to clean that up. So now I've got one unit that I can screw down to my, setup that has the base GPS, the TTL converter that's taking, given that this is the base, taking the output correction data. Down in this little corner is a 12 volt to 5 volt converter, because this runs off of 5 volt, as well as the 3DR radio runs off 5 volts. So although it looks like terribly simple and like, what the hell took you so long kind of comments are to be expected.
It's really compact.
Getting all that organized has been where I've spent my time.
And it didn't occur to me to take the 3DR radio out of the case. That looks like it worked out really well to mount it that way.
Yeah, these actually may have been such a vintage that they were not in the case, because I have like 5 versions of these things. But anyway, yeah, this is out of the case. And if you would like to know to the millimeter level of accuracy what the dimensions are, hold on to that. I may want that. That's got the pen connection as opposed to the USB connection. I think that's going to be more resilient. So that's the side view. Now this antenna I intend to take off, and what will come out of this is I don't know, would you call it a pigtail bulkhead connector that will go into the box that holds all that, but I just wanted to make sure that there was space there to be able to connect that to. And so that's the other view. This isn't terribly elegant, but I like it because it's like compact. So anyway, that's where I have been spending my time. The other thing that I've spent time doing, and it's not really easily discernible here because I don't have good 3D modeling skills, but these are brackets, and so I now have the dimensions down to millimeter level design to weld up the motor holder. So this would go in the right. I mean, it's just effectively a angle iron, 1-inch angle iron, but this would go on the tractor like that, and this would go on top of that, and then there would be a piece across here, and then the motor would mount to that piece. So that's the other thing that I've been spending time on, is getting all that modeled so I can hand these little plastic components to a welder and say, hey, make me this stuff at this dimension. So that's for tractor number 2. So hopefully this weekend I'll actually be able to get back to testing the correction data again with the updated layout and get all the GPS stuff working so I can ultimately get the tractor back out and testing. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Looks great, Al. Very clean. Those little brackets, I mean, to mount everything, that's pretty nice, the 3D printer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I overuse it, and every problem looks like a 3D printer problem. But yeah, it's nice to be able to get the tangled web of wires down to a smaller set of components that are more compact. So Jeff, is it with sadness that today is your final day there in the building?
Well, it is my final day. I'm not sure it's with sadness or glee, but
well, I wish you well on whatever's going to happen come Monday morning.
Monday morning I'm going to sleep. So I've been thinking about how I'm going to proceed, and I'll have to get a table to put my robot on, I suppose, or I can take it down to the makerspace, and I'll have to find a place to park it, and then I have to find some plastic to put over it because there's so much dust in that building from the woodworking stuff. If you leave something there just a little too long, it won't work anymore because it fills up with dust. I had a battery charger that it's for a mobility scooter, and it's got a fan inside of it. Well, it got enough dust inside the fan that it didn't want to run anymore. So,
Good grief.
so I gotta, as soon as I take something in there, I gotta figure out how to cover it up so I can keep it clean enough to not be a problem. So if I do some of my videos that I was thinking about, I need to. It might be easy to take it down there and put it up on a table, and just take my camera and go around and video the whole thing. And then maybe put it on the floor and video it, and then maybe take some videos of it driving around, then go back and try to edit all that together. And I don't know if I can do real-time audio, narration while I'm going, or if that's going to be. It depends which camera I use, and because my little handheld camera, it's like it's a Nikon or something. I don't know if it's got a microphone input, but of course the microphone's on the front of it. So if I'm pointing it at something and talking, you can't hear me talking. So I'll have to see if I can plug a microphone into that. And otherwise, I can use just a laptop camera and my headset to generate the video and audio. So I can try that. And so maybe I'll take pictures of it the way it is, and then take some pieces off, and take some pictures, and then maybe even start taking it apart, and then take pictures as I go, and then then I'll have all this video on hand, and then try to figure out what to do with that.
You had shown and found like a camera on the end of a stick kind of thing.
Yeah, that's they call it a borescope camera. Oh, it looks like Matt got one. Yeah, one of those. I might even have one in my laptop bag here somewhere. So, but those are good for really close up stuff because it says the focus is like 3 to 8 centimeters or something. And if you get back further, it still works. It has like a pinhole lens or something, but stuff starts getting blurry pretty quick. But if you need to get a close up of something, those work out fairly well. So that might be, at times I'll probably switch over to that and say, well, let's take a look at this thing down here, and then we can use that camera to look at it. So, and a lot of this, it's just an experiment right now to see what I can do. And then I'm going to have to figure out my correction data, how to get that from either a base station or a computer in my house. Getting correction data from the internet, how to get that out to my robot. So I'll try the 3DR radios, and I'll try, I've actually got some radios that a guy gave me a long time ago. They're like the Swift Nav radios, so they're the high powered 2.4 gigahertz radios. And I've never had those working, so that's something else I can look into. And I might just take my wireless access point in my house and take it out to my car and put it on top of the car and just walk around the neighborhood and see how much range I can get on that. It could be, if that works, that would solve a lot of problems right there. I just have a direct internet connection wherever I go. And just coincidentally, Minneapolis has what they call Minneapolis Wireless. It's a company that came into town and put up access points on all the poles and in all the neighborhood. So theoretically, I can get their roving account for, I think it's $20 a month. And basically, I can have my robot anywhere in the whole city of Minneapolis. And as long as I'm close enough to these access points, I should be able to get internet from anywhere if I do that.
Wow.
Then the other one that's meant to be, for home use. And then if you do that, then they say, well, you have to buy our receiver to make sure it's going to work right. And I've got one of those receivers from years ago, but I think I'd probably just go with the roving account to start with that. So again, I got lots of options on that. I just have to figure out what's a reasonable way to go on that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm still a fan of the jetpack kind of thing, but it's certainly more expensive than $20 a month. And so yeah, that's super that you've got access to that. I suspect in 3 years we'll all be saying, "Remember when it was hard to get Wi-Fi everywhere?" Well, it's 5G stuff. Matt, what's going on in your world?
Playing with cameras, and some wins, some loses. I upgraded my Ubiquiti image on the Raspberry Pi, and then my video camera stopped working. I'll show you. So that took a little bit to try to figure out, and it's still broken in the sense that, so basically I upgraded it, it didn't work, and it was throwing these errors saying that it couldn't initialize the camera. And this is just the standard Raspberry Pi camera, and this is the Raspberry Cam Node from Ubiquiti Robotics. So this is just the default. And as it turns out, the problem was this. When you restart, when I restart my Raspberry Pi, whatever that is, DCSM, it doesn't have the right permissions. And so you can give it the right permissions and then everything works. But the problem I'm having now is that when I just do reboot, anytime I reboot the Raspberry Pi, this comes back like this. Like this is the default, and I don't know how to make it
permanent.
Permanent. Yep. So that's the current situation. Then I switched over to that Logitech camera. And,
the 920.
Yep. I don't know how big that is, but there's kind of a gate in the middle of this screen, and the goal here is just a random goal, but I wanted to count the deer and turkeys coming through this gate. And so I was going to put up like a little camera there and then watch it and then see if I could count it. I think I'm too far away. Luckily it's snowing, so the deer really stand out, but this grass is all brown, and when the deer were coming through, they're really hard to see. So I may need to move this camera out, maybe on this garden pole or something, to get a close up. But so now I have a Ross Master running on the property, and then I can start adding stuff to it. But the cameras, I'm struggling with those a little bit.
And the counting turkeys, talk about that a little bit. Is that how much code does it take to count turkeys if you get your camera organized?
I don't know. So what's cool about the Raspberry Pi, it has this motion detect feature built in, and so what I'm attempting to do is collect a data set and then train a machine learning model on YOLO, and then send out that data. So this could be cows in a water trough or whatever livestock you want to track. I'm just using deer and turkeys because I have them. Quail may be a little small to see, but it'd be fun to play around to see what you could see. And
Yeah, absolutely. Can't count dandelions, so might as well count.
Not for a few months.
Yeah, count turkeys. That's super cool.
Oh, you just reminded me. Every spring, I think, oh, if I had a robot that could see dandelion and go and pick them in my yard, that would be that would give you something to do. You know, the dandelions always come up. You just need something that goes out and can find them, and that way you don't have to go scatter stuff around the yard. You got something you can go look at. But I always think about that about the time the dandelions come up, so I never get around to doing anything with it. So now you mentioned it, maybe that I'll have to start looking at that.
Yeah, I'm not joking. That's exactly the kind of thing that I want to be able to map all that kind of crap because it's all applicable. I mean, in a hayfield, I want to go kill the daggone. There's these nasty, tall, prickly deals that come up, and that all needs to get whacked out. So,
can you just cut them and let them fall down, or do you have to actually grab them and take them away?
What's preferable is to take them away because you should really burn them so the seeds don't propagate, because that's their whole deal as they grow up. It's like a huge dandelion, but worse, and then it spreads those seeds all over the place. And cows won't eat them, so there's a few species like that need to be eradicated. Cow farmers are grass farmers. Gotta grow good grass. Lithium batteries also, I've spent a ton of time educating myself on lithium batteries, 18650 lithium batteries to be precise, although I have others. So that's been sort of interesting to go on the journey of how much power can you get in a lithium battery, and how do you charge them, how do you discharge them, how do you monitor their voltage, and do you do a 12, 24, 48 volt system. So that's been a sideline, but at the moment I'm just going to run a power cable out to the yard if I have to for power for my stuff, for the correction data in base data. And in the world of real cows, what's going on with my real cows? So my real cows, you gotta my cow guy didn't wean the calves soon enough, and so he had a bull over visiting the girls, and that didn't work out so well because he didn't leave enough time between when he weaned the babies from the mamas. So he's now weaned the baby cows and waiting for their hormones to settle down before the boy cow comes over and does makes his contribution. And we're installing fence. Oh my gosh, if being a farmer is, there's always something. So installing fence, what kind of fence? Perimeter fence versus interior fence, electric versus mesh versus barbed wire. It's all good fun. So we're in the middle of trying to keep the cows out of the creek and installing perimeter fence to do that. So if you have any good contractors that do fence in and around Houston, Texas, please let me know. And the water well is leaking, I think, and there's always something. Always something. Poor farmers. That there's always something for them to have to fix. So with,
Putting an electric fence, you can probably get your lawn tractor to do that. You just need to get some kind of a thing that shoves the posts in the ground, and then at least you can put the posts down where you want them. And then I don't know if you could get it to be smart enough to string the wire on after you get that done. So you've got a lot of work ahead of you there.
let me tell you, Jeff, the business case is permanent perimeter fence, $15 a foot for wood. I think, let's see, what, so $9,000 for 3,000 feet of barbed wire fence. What does that come to per foot? I didn't do the math. I mean, there's a serious business case for automating that process. Even if, I mean, not to take the total labor out, because that's, you know, a little bit crazy to think you can take the total labor out, but there's automation to support that process. I mean, imagine the bobcat pulling the trailer, and the bobcat, you know, drills the hole, pulls the trailer over the hole, the post is put in, and wires are, you know, pulled along the back. Matt, there you go, man. There's more automation opportunities.
Yeah, Ben Garten from Garten Tractors in California has an automated Kubota, and it will go and spray kind of like a business card size marking on soil where the posts go. And so he has his automated Kubota go through and put paint marks on the ground, and then humans come by with straws and like a Phillips screwdriver, and they shove straws in the ground on every single one of those spots. And then the crew comes in and puts the posts in. It's pretty impressive. They can really move. And it's amazing to see all of those, how, you know, any direction you look, all of those poles are all lined up. Pretty.
And who is it that you know that does that?
Garten, Ben Garten from Garten Tractors.
And did he develop the thing himself?
Yeah.
Does he have a website?
I don't know. I'm sure they do. Garten Tractors is, I think they have 9 dealerships in California. I'll find it.
Yeah, any automation, and for landowners, getting a good fence guy is a real problem. I mean, and you would think, I would have thought in Texas, oh my gosh, everybody's got fence, everybody's must have a guy. It's no, not the case.
So once you get that fence put in, say the electric fence, then do you have to keep it mowed, or do you spray it, or what do you do to keep the grass from shorting out the fence?
Yeah, an electric fence you actually do. I mean, the cows will help that somewhat, because if the grass is good, they figure out how close they can get and how far they have to stay away. So they will keep it somewhat groomed. But yeah, ultimately you can't let it short out, which means either moving it or, somehow cutting the grass. So again, that part of the goal of having, although I want to, cut hay with a 60 horsepower tractor automated, grooming the grounds around it is another use case. I see a regular size Kabuto. Actually, it's one of the big Kabutos. I'm looking at his website. For your
I don't think it's listed on their main dealership website.
Yeah, just looking under implements if he had any fancy implement mentioned. Don't see anything. Yeah, tons of automation opportunities on the farm.
Well, somebody should start making a list of all these things. So somebody say, "Hey, I can do that for you," and I can tell you how to make your garden tractor do that. So speaking of your weeds in your hayfield, now if you took your full-size lawn tractor out there, is that going to mash the grass down enough that it's going to be a problem, or are you going to have to build something with either motorcycle or bicycle tires on it, so it's got less compaction as it drives around? Has anybody
My
thought
goal, so compaction is bad, so the smaller you can go, the better. My goal is to rotate cattle regularly. I mean, because the goal is, for me anyway, trying to get to a point where 100% grass-fed beef. Generally speaking, if they can come in when the grass is about 6 inches tall or taller, and then let them do their thing until it's about 3 inches. And then I would come through with something to knock off the weeds that they've chosen, that they've decided are not edible. So yes, you could do that with a garden tractor sized device. In my mind, you'd probably, where my mind goes is to cut it with some sort of sickle as opposed to a regular what you might know as a spinning blade. But at that point, there's options. And then so I think a garden-sized tractor could do it and would be better than a big tractor that's going to compact the soil, because the more you can keep the soil from compacting, then it just makes for a more healthy soil.
So you're talking about actually harvesting the hay, or are you talking about just cutting weeds out of it?
Both, actually, because even with grass-fed beef and rotating cattle in Texas, January and February, probably going to be feeding hay, and so there will need to be some level of hay production, but the goal is to minimize that as much as possible.
I just assumed you'd use your small vehicle to go through and identify weeds and cut the weeds out. And then when it comes time to cut the hay, just use a big tractor, use the normal size stuff that everybody else uses to go through and cut it and bale it or whatever you're going to do with it.
Certainly phase one, I'd say you're absolutely right. One of the ways to take cost out of hay production is to get down to smaller bales. Part of the reason people don't use smaller bales anymore is because it's labor intensive. if you can harvest smaller bales and do it in an automated fashion and put those in a weatherized environment, then you retain more hay and there's less waste. So again, you're then hopefully shrinking the number of acres it takes to maintain the same number of herd, or you have a bigger herd with the same number of acres. So let's just say 10 years from now, I'd like to be back to square bales instead of 5-foot round bales. But getting there is going to be a process. Matt's going to have to automate a 60-pound hay bale picker-upper.
No problem.
It's the tech. No, it won't take much. It really won't. I mean, you know what? With those all, who was it? Probably some Greek guy that figured out the pulley system and how you can lift stuff up with pulleys and use very little torque.
Well, when you bale hay, are you required to dump the thing out on the ground and pick it up later, or could you just take it right off the back of the baler and somehow build something that would stack it on your hay rack you're pulling behind? Does it have to lay there and dry or something? Or
Once you bale it, you've dried it as much as you're going to. So, I mean, if you wanted, I mean, the typical process today is you got a 2-man operation, one guy raking hay that's that's been cut and dried in the field. So you got one guy driving the rake. You got another guy driving the baler. One of those 2 guys, after everything's baled, might go get the truck with the trailer, and the other guys now got, typically the tractor with the rake might have the fork on the front to pick up the bale and load it onto the tractor. I'm sorry, load it onto the trailer. And then that's if you're hauling it someplace. If you're keeping it on premise, then you just stack it up at some place that's convenient for you. So it's not, I've never seen an operation go rake, bale onto the trailer all in one sort of process. I guess it's possible, but I've not personally seen it.
Anytime I've seen it done, somebody will go through and cut the hay and let it lay there for a day or so, and then they come back with a rake and rake it into rows, and then like a day or 2 later, they come back with a baler and then bale the stuff. And
pretty much everybody does it that way. Yeah.
And then I was thinking that the way they did it was, anytime I was involved in this, I had to be on the hay rake, but they would pull the hay rack, but they pull the hay rack right behind the baler. So as they come off the baler, you'd have to grab them, and 2 or 3 people would stack them on the hay rack. So if you had something you could pull behind your baler that you could automate, so it would grab the bale and stack them for you, then that would possibly take care of that.
Yeah, the stacking thing you're talking about, I'm assuming those are square bales, what are referred to as square bales.
Yeah, it was whatever they had 20 or 30 years ago.
I'd like to get back to that. Because,
yeah.
But you're doing it without the labor, right? Doing it without, heck, I can't even find guys to put fence in at $15 a foot. Finding teenage kids to schlep hay bales like some of us may have in our younger days. That doesn't happen anymore. Well, alfalfa is the exception. Alfalfa is a really high energy device, and if you have horses, I'm not a horse guy, but what I know about horses is alfalfa is a premium crop for horses, typically square bales. So there is a whole industry around alfalfa and feeding horses off of square bales, but more expensive.
So do you have a tractor at this point that's big enough to pull a baler, so you can, if you go automate that, then theoretically you could say, hey, there's the hayfield, go drive up and down there, and then the thing on the back stacks them on the rack for you, so you can just sit there and watch it.
Yeah, mine is certainly big enough for square bales. It's right at the edge to doing round bales, typical round bales, 5-foot round bales.
It sounds like you're all set up then. Just have to make it
Just
work.
need the automation. uh, it is less than fun to sit out on a tractor in 100-degree heat for 13 hours raking and baling. So not my idea of a good day. I'd rather be figuring out how to count turkeys in Matt's backyard.
No, rather than baling hay, I like to be up on a roof in July, re-roofing the house.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing to do.
It's in the same genre. So I need an AB line test, and once we do an AB line test, we can groom our lawns, cut our weeds, count dandelions. So many things if we have that platform organized. Matt, anything else on your agenda?
More fun. I talked with Jeff a little bit about it, but I was looking at, I need to add some more sensors to control the throttle. I want to be able to control the choke. So I have a little servo. It doesn't take much effort to move that little throttle lever, but I'm running out of lines that go back to my control box. I only have 24 pins coming out of that bulkhead connector. And then I was thinking I really have a lot more sensors to add and different things like the beacons and all this other stuff. And so I really don't have a big enough harness to be able to start adding all of those other components. Led me down a dangerous road to say, okay, how about CAN? And so here's the STM32 and the little CAN device. And then here's the Arduino Nano and another little CAN device. And then here's the Arduino with a CAN shield. And then here's my Cannibal. So I was like, well, if I switched over to CAN, then it becomes very easy to add another node. Like, you can put it anywhere up front. If you want to add an attachment, you need some sort of connector to be able to add an attachment, or in the front or rear.
And so is it you're pondering that, or you've decided you're going to convert to CAN?
I am, yeah, just pondering it, considering, yep, because kind of like what you did. You had like a little 12 volt to 5 volt converter. So basically, I think it would be like this. You would have some sort of microcontroller, some sort of CAN device, and then a power. With these three things, you could plug in any device anywhere and control it, read sensors, publish sensor data back. Or, like Jeff suggested, just buy an external I/O device and then run everything to that, which would be much easier.
Makes my head hurt. It does. I'm like, oh my goodness.
No, but I've got a 25-gallon sprayer with an 8-foot boom, and I want to be able to control the nozzles. And I'm taking a look at like all of the wiring that's going to have to go onto that thing. I'm like, well, eight solenoids for the nozzles, power to the pump, maybe a camera, some sort of like a flow meter. If you want to keep track of what's the actual flow coming to your device. There's just a lot of extra things, electronics.
And as opposed to making those individual standalone solutions, you want it all to come back to one singular compute device.
Well, I think that's that was in my incorrect thinking. So maybe a distributed approach, like for the front camera, I was going to put the Nano up front to process the camera data. It has a little bit more processing power. So just keep adding, I don't know, devices.
I mean, it may not take away the need to move to CAN or something like that. I'm just, for me, my thought process would go along the lines of, hey, I'm going to fire up this thing, set the, get it started, and I'm happy to be there physically to get it started and muck with the choke and set the throttle, manual if necessary. And so if I were prioritizing and wanting to get to a spray system, personally, I might work on the spray system before I work on throttle and choke control.
Well,
Because the spray system is definitely going to need, that's not set it and forget it kind of mechanical stuff.
yeah, maybe it might, maybe the thinking is that we use a computer and call it like an ECU, and that basically just runs the basic function of the robot. And then we have another module or computer that does the peripheral. And then maybe for the attachment, like a sprayer, it has its own computer. And then we need some way, like, what's the protocol to talk back from your attachment to the device? And CAN probably is the best choice there. So
Wouldn't a ROS message be this an alternative as well?
yes, but it's the transmission. How do you transmit that? So you could go Bluetooth or you can go Wi-Fi and connect back in, and then you could, if we did Wi-Fi, you just connect into ROS. You don't have to worry. There's nothing to connect. And maybe that's worthwhile.
Again, for me, I'm headed down the path of I want Wi-Fi in the field.
Okay.
And again, I'm not married to that. It's just the way my simple head works.
Would be pretty easy, because if your attachment was running ROS on a little device controlling all of that stuff, and then just did Wi-Fi connecting into your machine, then it would be very easy.
I mean, if you're talking about a safety system, direct connection is obviously going to be better for a safety system, because you don't want a whole bunch of layers of technology between, something bad happening and safety. But again, I'm just giving you my reaction. My reaction is, would I rather see Matt spend time on automating choke and throttle or on flow control for a sprayer? I'm just thinking choke and throttle is a set it and forget it kind of thing. You get the device going versus flow control.
If I want to go plow my driveway at 4 a.m., it's nice if the robot just does it.
Oh yeah,
It's cold outside out.
You want to do it without even getting out of bed.
Slippers.
Get out of bed.
If I have to do something that a robot can do, I feel very bad.
Okay.
It's like I'm.
It's a noble goal, to stay in bed and just hear the hum of your snowblower going outside. Fantastic.
I've actually been playing around with like a leaf blower, and if it's cold enough, the leaf blower does a pretty good job of getting the snow away.
Yeah, the guys here in Pittsburgh have said that same thing. Yeah, I've not personally done it, but yeah, they've said the same thing.
They just mount a leaf blower on front and then drive it around.
I'll write the check. Where do I send the check? I would just like to buy that. I'm stuck with trying to get my base station and Rover to talk so I can then go buy the snowblower.
So what's the next step on that? You're all of that's mounted and working, and the 3DR radios work.
Desk checked. I mean, desk tested on the desk. Now it's about putting them out in the yard and getting them to work again, in the yard instead of on the kitchen table.
Excellent.
So
That localization is still a hard problem. That's so having a RTK GPS accurate position is far better.
so I'm in the physical realm of getting off of the kitchen table and back out into the yard.
Exciting.
Yep.
So I read an article, Al, where this guy made this GUI where you could put in these coordinates and then drive your robot around. Oh, for your A/B test, yeah. So I was wondering what the UI is that you want for your A/B test. Do you want to send in GPS coordinates?
I'm perfectly happy with a painfully manual process of entering GPS waypoints I have. So the UI can be a text file. I don't care.
Okay. Okay, so we'll switch and we'll say we're going to use local coordinates in a text file, because we can do that now.
Step one can be, what I was doing with the Ardu pilot stuff is using Mission Planner to pick points in their GUI, but for me, I'm happy to manually enter into a text file 34.978456.
I know, there's a lot of digits. No. So with local coordinates, wherever you set your origin, the local coordinates are just like graph around that. So you'll just put if you want to go 5 meters, it'll be 50.
Yes.
And then come back to 00. Then that's forward and backwards.
Well, I know you're back to that frame of reference. I mean, my for that A/B test, I don't, manually entering into a text file if I have to.
Okay, but now you have your RTK GPS working. Your robot you can drive around with a joystick.
Yeah.
That's pretty close.
I mean, I need to go get my steering gear I spun a bolt the last time.
Okay.
Took probably, I don't know, I was steering it a lot without actually moving, so but it was still less than 10 amps worth of power going to that motor, but my probably 1/8 inch threaded bolt spun off, so I need to go get that. I'm going to get that welded so that forget about it. So I need to do that, but really where I'm at is getting the base station and Wi-Fi and RTK correction data all coming in outside and not just sitting on the kitchen table. But yeah, steering with a joystick. There'll probably be some hardening I need to do for my angle sensor bracket. There was some vibration going on, and it's probably going to need to be hardened a bit more. But yeah, it worked with the magnetic sensor. It'll be interesting to see what temperature does to that. If it's still solid, but and some weatherproofing. You need to do that. And I can't drive in a snowstorm at the moment. Is yours weatherproof? Do you think yours is weatherproof?
Yeah, I used all Deutsch connectors. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I thought I had them, so that's what I used. I would like to find a low cost, well, like we said, the MTD connector setup.
Is your potentiometer for angle, is it weatherproofed?
No, but it's inside of the housing of the steering motor. Water could splash up into there. It's not totally enclosed. It's covered, but not enclosed.
Yeah, I'm thinking ultimately, you know, if you put these things on a trailer and you're pulling it through a rainstorm, you know, that kind of stuff is got to get hardened a bit.
Yep.
Phase 2. So, I'm hoping to still test even though it's whatever it is, 30 degrees outside. Get some chains, tear up the yard, let the lawn guy take care of it next spring.
There you go.
Or better yet, the snowplow thing.
Yep.
Okay, gentlemen. Jeff, anything else?
No, I'm just trying to finish out the day, and then I'll get back to robots.
Yeah, I'm happy and sad. I hope it works out for you. Let us know when you stand up your YouTube channel. We'll run over and subscribe real quick, so we can be your first subscribers.
Yeah, I'll probably post a few. Well, I've got a channel already. It's got junk on it right now, but I'll probably post a few. You know, just test things. So you can go look at that and say if that's reasonable or not. I'll use you guys as guinea pigs. So you can tell me if it's acceptable or not.
And the affiliate programs, have you figured out, I mean, things that you recommend, have you figured out how to be an affiliate or put affiliate links in there?
I haven't figured any of it out yet, so that's all yet to come.
I don't know the specifics, but one of the ways these guys make money is they recommend a product and they put their affiliate link and they get, I don't know, 5 or 6% of commission on sales through the affiliate links.
Right now, it's just an experiment to see what I can do, so I'll worry about it later.
Okay. Well, guys, have a great weekend, and we will see you on the Slack channel. I will be trying to get my base station set up this weekend and doing my Wi-Fi stuff.
Okay.
We'll talk to you later.
Have a great weekend.